Hi, my name's Penny. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do another Top 5 Wednesday video. So Top 5 Wednesday is a Goodreads group where every week there is a prompt for your top 5 something. This week is your top 5 jokesters, pranksters, and funny characters. And I have to be honest, I don't really like jokesters, so I struggled to come up with this list, but I've come up with a list of something. Generally, I prefer kind of like dark or sarcastic humor, so my favorite funny characters aren't really funny exactly. They're more sassy or just humorous. But I did manage to come up with a list of 5 characters, so I guess I will go through them and maybe that'll be interesting. So number 5 is the most obvious one, I think, and that is Fred and George from the Harry Potter series. I don't own the Harry Potter series, that's my sister's job. I was a little bit old when Harry Potter came out, so I'm not quite as obsessed as some other people, although I did enjoy it and I read it to my younger and brother sister, or at least the first couple of books I read to them. So I do kind of have some nostalgia for the series. I think throughout the series Fred and George do some quite hilarious jokes. Also some of their jokes kind of have more of a message, and they're just like still good people. A lot of time pranksters always take things too far, or at least a lot of the pranksters I could come up with were always taking things too far, to the point where you really start questioning, are they good people? But Fred and George, there's no question, they're definitely good people, but still just trying to add a bit of fun to things. And I did really enjoy them, although I must say the Fred and George in my mind are nothing like the Fred and George in the movies. Because the Fred and George in the movies are like these really thin, wiry guys, but they're beaters in the Quidditch team. I just can't see how they wouldn't be big and burly. So in my head, they were big and burly. I don't know if there's some description in the book that goes against that, but that's what they're like in my head. So number 4 in my list is from the Buffy universe, the comics that came after the TV series. So kind of one of the spin-offs from this series is a few comics that are about Spike the vampire, and he basically ends up on this spaceship of like bug aliens, and they treat him like their master, and the bugs are just hilarious. They're kind of just joking around, being stupid, often trying to help Spike or cheer him up. And I don't know that they're pranksters or jokesters exactly, but they're definitely funny characters, and the last Spike book that I read was just so entertaining. So number 3 is from the Summon the Keeper series. I had to pick a character from this series because this is probably the funniest series that I've ever read and enjoyed. It basically follows this girl who is a keeper. Her job is to protect the world from magic coming through from other dimensions, and she gets summoned to places where her skills are needed. She has this talking cat who is just kind of a jerk, typical cat, only thinks about food and being lazy, and I love him. He's not the character I'm thinking of. One of the characters in this book is Hal. Hal isn't really a prankster, although he does kind of play tricks on people, but not really, because from his perspective, he's trying to be evil and do evil things, but he's not very good at being evil, even though he's Hal, so you would expect it. And so his evil things often turn out a little bit more like pranks, and I really love this series. Like I said, I don't really like funny books, but this series is one that I think managed to pull it off by just getting that balance right. So if you like books, if you like fantasy and kind of like a quirky sense of humor that maybe takes the piss a little bit about classic fantasy or paranormal tropes, then Summon the Keeper, or the Keeper Chronicles, I think the trilogy is called, by Tanya Huff, is a good one. And bonus, there's a cat on the cover of 2 of the books, maybe 3. So then number 2 would be Aladdin, or Elodin if you read the audiobooks, from The Name of the Wind or the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. So Aladdin is one of the teachers at the university that our main character Quoth goes goes to. He's a naming teacher, but he also gets up to some quite ridiculous things. There's definitely this one scene where he takes Quoth to a room that Quoth thinks is Elodin's room. Slightly spoilers to tell you that it's not his room. He starts lighting all the clothes on fire, and it turns out that it's the room for another lecturer. I mean, that's quite an extreme prank, really, and he just does it because he doesn't like the other guy. And just some of the other things that he gets Quoth to do throughout the series are kind of ridiculous and funny. And again, I think he pulls off that prankster role without it being like just too stupid. So then my number one for this is slightly inspired by what I've been watching on TV lately, which is A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. And the character I'm actually thinking of is Count Olaf himself. So I know in the books I read him as probably a lot scarier, but in the TV series he is played by Neil Patrick Harris, and he's pretty funny. And I think as well the TV series has done a really good job of staying true to the books while still adding something else. And part of that something else that's being hinted at, I'm up to episode 8 of the second season at the moment. My plan is tonight to watch with my sister the remainder. But there are some hints in the TV series of him being a little bit more than just a bad guy. I don't really remember how much that gets hinted at in the books. He's definitely a prankster, just not like a jokester really, because his pranks are more of the evil kind, or like definitely taking it too far. But his different costumes throughout the series are just so over the top and ridiculous that he is responsible for a lot of the humor in the series. I mean, of course, there's also the narration style. So A Series of Unfortunate Events, if you haven't read it, is a middle grade series with this very playful language that follows the story is actually quite dark. It follows these 3 orphans whose parents have died in a fire, and they get shipped off to different guardians. Things keep going wrong. Count Olaf is trying to kill them through most of the series, and they have a pretty awful time, but it's also this mystery unravels through the whole series that just makes it great. So it's definitely worth a read and a watch if you like that, or if you like Neil Patrick Harris, then I would recommend watching A Series of Unfortunate Events, because the humor is just perfect and dark, and I really enjoy it. So I guess that's my top 5 pranksters. I don't feel like that was a particularly good list, but it is what it is. If you think that you can think of any pranksters that you think I might like, that aren't just like stupid pranksters, but more, I don't know how to describe what I like. Anyway, if you think based on those 5 there's someone else I might like, then let me know. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you next time.